I'm live. I'm alive. Okay, that was a little lackluster. I'll do better next time. Today, I wanted to read a few poems to you. I don't have an exact fundraiser at the moment, but if you would like to donate to a fundraiser, I will try and match if you show me the receipt on anything that I sell in the upcoming months. And so just let me know, and I'll try and work something out with you if it's feasible. And if I get donations for some of my upcoming products that I'm going to release. This is Frances of the Wider Field, and this is by Laura Van Prooyen, and she was a visiting writer at Our Lady of the Lake. And so I'm going to read just for a few minutes. They're really short poems, and I'm going to read a few of those for you. Hey, thanks for being here. This is Lilacs Full of Bees. Didn't I just tell this story? Didn't Frances just clean her gutters? Didn't she polish her car? Take a toothbrush to the white-walled tires? Didn't Frances say, "Just a minute," with that voice? Didn't she listen to the radio in the dark? Didn't she have feet? Didn't she soak them, rub her corn toes? Who here knows the story? I remember an organ and hymns from another time, in another language. Is a sigh a word? Is a body a word? Is a tongue the beginning? I can't undo these questions. Who remembers the clothesline, bleached sheets, the lilacs full of bees? Where there's a voice, there's an answer. Didn't Frances say, "Don't forget my hairbrush, my slippers, my teeth"? Weren't you there? Weren't you listening? Didn't she have hands? Don't you hear me? Isn't this your story? So I really love that poem, and I chose that one as the first one because it's so ubiquitous, right? There's so many things that the average person, the working person, goes through. Questions. There's a lot there to unpack, but I'll leave it at that. The second one is called Psalms 23.5. I left the sloping bank of Thorn Creek, the cracked asphalt of 170th Street, and still, windows washed with vinegar shine. Bricks hosed and cleared of vines hold on to mortar decayed. On a ladder my father scoops leaves from the gutter, never putting off till tomorrow what he can do today. How vain to think distance might change the lines on my palm, or the chapter and verse lodged under my tongue. The Lord is my shepherd. But I don't want the green pasture or the still water or a doily under my tea. I don't want the doll with eyes that open and close, or the shattered oak with one living limb that my mother insists on saving. I don't want to sit under the clothesline with my mother, comparing our feet, noting the veins on our legs look the same. I know exactly where I came from the field, from onions stinging the air in my eyes, from long swaths of land and longer Sundays spooled out like rough ribbon braided through my hair. So I picked this poem second. It is consecutive, but I picked this one second. Because of looking at where you're coming from as a person. And sometimes you don't always align with what others want you to align with, right? And whether it is with your family or religion that's imposed on you or laws, I thought it was really important. And sometimes you have this image of yourself, this wild image, but you're so much more than that, right? And so it's like fighting to be everything and nothing of what is expected of you. And I'm sure there's more, but that's what comes immediately, right? The easiest thing to kind of analyze. And that's what hit me. And so I'm going to read this next one. It's called Inflammation of the Nerves. And I thought that this one was timely. Inflammation of the nerves. It's just a case of shingles. Latent virus. Reactivated in the body. What kind of answer is a shingle? A house built on rock, roofed with "Don't pay them no mind." My arm is hot. Fever shudder. Search for cause, treatment, cause for big rash, small snake, hell's fire. What kind of answer is your father had shingles, not too bad, just covered them up till they were gone. I cover up, long-sleeved, secret blisters on the nerve road of my left arm, hidden. Virus. All these years in my cells. How do you define silence? Quiet does not mean dead. Quiet does not mean not listening. Activation of the latent virus is poorly understood. No one knows what triggers the secret blister in 92 degrees and sun. Treatment limits travel of nerve bodies to the endings of the skin. Quiet does not mean don't pay them no mind. So I read this a couple of times before I know usually I read it live for the first time for you. This time was different. And I've heard her read some of these poems, but not this one exactly. And this one, it seems to be about shingles, right? And about virus. And on the surface it is, pun intended. But really, it's about so much more than that, right? It's about the secret blisters, about the internal problems, the internal struggles that we have, that we try and bury down, that people tell you, don't talk about that. You need to be quiet about that, right? Those problems, we don't speak about that in polite society. But it's not that you shouldn't always talk about them, or that people mean be quiet and don't look at them, bury them in the closet. It's the fact that we need to address them, whether it's going to a therapist, whether it's getting help of some sort, whether it's getting medication, whether it's whatever it is. People often say, don't talk about it, right? Like, we don't talk about that kind of stuff. But there's blisters that fester in the soul that we need to pay them mind. We need to address them, and in a healthy way, in a way that's going to be productive. And so I think that's really, activation of the latent virus is poorly understood. Reminds me of, sometimes trauma is buried deep and it doesn't surface until years and years later. And it needs to be addressed, needs to be spoken about, journaled about. You can't, just because you need to be quiet maybe so you don't embarrass someone else, doesn't mean that you shouldn't do anything about it. There's so many things that you could do about trauma and about your secret blisters. At least that's what I took from this, right? And it might not be what she means, but it really hit me. So I felt it important to talk about it, especially because of COVID, but there's so much more to it, right? This next one is called Hill Country Unreachable. Out here, I hook messages to vultures' wings. I tell feral hogs about my sister's cancer, and they run away. Cliffs slap back my voice. God? I don't know if silence is an ocean. I'm swirling in a canyon riddled with shells. Hear me. My sister has cancer, and every time they go in, they find more. A new spot, a score of cells exposed, like the scorpion you didn't want to find under the stone. So I'm sorry if that triggered anybody. I should have warned you. What I feel is beautiful is, well, all the imagery, frankly. But there's this one part where she says, I don't know if silence is an ocean, I'm swirling. So it's, I don't know if silence is an ocean, period, I'm swirling. And so it's like your mind is racing, is swirling, and then is the canyon, in a canyon riddled with shells. So in this chasm, right, of emotion, with more, it could either mean your own other problems, right? Like it's not just one problem, but multiple. Or you mean people, and we're all in this chasm of things that are happening to us, and everybody is swirling. So when you think of shell, right, a shell has swirls. And so you're one of many shells that are speaking to God, asking God, like, what's going on, God? You know, there's a lot here, but that was my immediate takeaway. And of course, the immediate I hook messages to vulture wings, right? And vultures are the bearers of bad news, the ones that do the things that nobody wants. You know, they pick up the roadkill. They pick up the roadkill of our lives. And like the feral hogs in the cliffs reminds me of when Jesus banished the demons out into the pigs, and then they went over the cliff, right? So there's just, it's like, you know, like reaching out, and it's called Hill Country Unreachable. And so, you know, you're trying to avoid this thing and hoping for this burden to be taken away from you, but you're just one of many shells in a chasm, in a canyon. Anyway, there's just so much to this poem. I can go off a little bit on it, but I won't. It's amazing. Laura was great in our class that I took her in, and so I went to review her book, Frances of the Wider Field. This next one will be traumatic, and so I do want to say that in case anybody needs to sign off. Anyone that has PTSD or anything like that, this will affect them, more than likely. It's called Dark Praise. My sister had to cut off her breasts. My daughter asks for a new pancreas. I may be a fool to believe in goodness. What a risk to love. The soldier who tells me he was hauling ass when a girl ran in front of his tank. He can't sleep. I can't sleep. I can't shake the sound of, he said, her body made. My sister is a whole new you. She changed her hair, her name. She looks good. My daughter could go blind. We don't talk about kidneys, or transplants, or amputated feet. The soldier told me blood is unreal on a windshield. He can't sleep. He likes to drink. I like to drink too. I raised a glass to my sister's new breasts. Praised my daughter's needles, insulin, blood tests. I drink for the girl who, if there's mercy, never knew what was coming. God forbid that happens to any of us, but it does happen more than we care to imagine, care to think about on a daily basis. This happens, and it's like her sister is that girl that was run over by the tank. It's like cancer and disease and all of those things are a tank that are being run down by soldiers that we can't see. They're running us down, and we're having to just be thankful that we're alive. And sometimes it's harder than all that. sometimes we turn to alcohol or to whatever we can to quell ourselves, our souls. But sometimes we're just those innocent people that are being run down by whatever the metaphorical, symbolic tank is that's in our life. Praying for each other, trying to be thankful for what we have. And sometimes it's a real tank in a real foreign land. In Venezuela, with the army running people down. In China, with the government beating the protesters. Here in the US, in the Black Lives Matter protests. Sometimes it's a real person beating you down. And we have to be thankful to be alive, but other times it's hard to be thankful to be alive and we can't sleep. Whatever PTSD you're going through, I hope that you can get help. I hope that we can all get help, especially after this year of COVID. They say that people being isolating and quarantining inside their houses has increased violence, domestic violence. The Rape Crisis Center is out there for women and children that are looking for help here in Bexar County in San Antonio. And even if you're not here in San Antonio, I don't know if they'll take you, but they have video chats, they have online computer chats, and they have secure ways for you to reach out and get help. If you need, they have ways that you can securely and privately seek help, even if you are living with your abuser. So please reach out. There are ways to reach out. And if you can reach out to the Rape Crisis Center, if you can donate, if you have the means, or even share about them, I think that's really important. And so I'm going to end there. There's another poem that I really want to read, but I think I'll read it later. Thank you so much for everyone that tuned in. If you can donate to the Rape Crisis Center or spread awareness that there are ways to seek counseling for trauma, that is for people, mostly women and children. But I think they'll take some men also. But there are different places that you can get counseling. So please note that if you're going through trauma, to seek help. And that there's nothing wrong in seeking counseling or seeking help, seeking the things that you need. Because we're all swirling in a canyon of shells. Thank you.